Hey guys, so we're going to be reviewing adding and subtracting fractions today. So it hasn't been too long since we did this, so we're going to go through some word problems. Our first one says, Ashley ordered 1/3 pounds of butter. Jordan ordered 2/6 of butter. So how much butter did they order combined? So I know when I see this word combined, that tells me I'm going to add. So I just need to add these two fractions. So we have 1/3 plus 2/6. So to add and subtract fractions, these denominators cannot be different. So we have to find an equivalent fraction to make them have the same denominator. So when I do that, my first step is to list my multiples of 3 and 6. So 3, 6, 9, 12, and then 6, 12, 18. So I'm trying to find the lowest number, the least common denominator, the lowest number they have in common, which is 6. So I know that my denominators are both going to have to be 6s. So I look at my 1/3. 3 times what equals 6? 3 times 2. Whatever I do to the denominator or the bottom, I do to the numerator. So I also multiply it by 2. 1 times 2 gives me 2. 6 times what gives you 6? 6 times 1, so you also multiply that by 1, and that one will just stay the same. So now I can add these up. 2/6 plus 2/6 equals 4/6. Remember, you're not adding these two together, they just stay the same. So 4/6. So before you move on or select your answer, this needs to be simplified. So you have to ask yourself, what is the highest number that both 4 and 6 can be divided by? And they can both be divided by 2. That's the largest number they can both be divided by. So 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So 2/3 is my simplified answer. So how much butter did they order combined? 2/3 butter. All right. Let's go to the next one. Ron and Randy built houses out of playing cards. When they were done, they measured the houses. Ron's house was 1/4 of a yard tall. Randy's house was 6/8 of a yard tall. How much taller was Randy's house than Ron's? So we're trying to find how much taller, or the difference in the houses. So that is going to mean that we are going to subtract. So I'm going to subtract 6/8 minus 1/4. So remember, we have to have common denominators. So I'm going to list my multiples for 4 and 8. So 4, 8, 12, and then 8, 16. So my lowest number they have in common is 8. So that's going to be my LCD, which tells me that's what both of my denominators need to be, is 8. So 8 times what gives you 8? 8 times 1, so you also do the same to the top. That one stays the same. 4 times what gives you 8? 4 times 2, so you also multiply the top by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. So we have 6/8 minus 2/8. Now we can solve it because our denominators are the same. 6 minus 2 is 4, and then I keep that denominator of 8. So before we move on, we need to see if this can be simplified. What is the largest number that both 4 and 8 can be divided by? They can both be divided by 2, but there's a number that's bigger, 4. They can both be divided by 4 to simplify this fraction. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So 1/2 will be my simplified answer. This is another adding one. We'll do this one. So while making a wedding cake, Courtney used 7/10 of a bag of white flour and 1/4 of a bag of wheat flour. How much flour did she use combined? So we know we're going to add. So we have 7/10 plus 1/4. So first things first, I need to list my multiples. List my multiples for 4. So what is the lowest number that they have in common? 20. So I know that 20 is my LCD, my least common denominator. So that means both denominators need to be 20. So 10 times what gives you 20? 10 times 2. Do the same to the top. Multiply it by 2. 7 times 2 is 14. 4 times what gives you 20? 4 times 5 gives you 20, so you multiply the top by 5 as well. So you have 14 20ths plus 19, or plus 5 20ths, which gives you 19 20ths. This one cannot be simplified. There's not a number that they can both be divided by. They can both be divided by 1, but then you'll just get the same answer as 19 20ths. So 19 20ths would be your answer. Before I move on, I want to quickly go over adding mixed numbers. So if I have 1 2/3 plus 3 4/8, I need to make my denominators equivalent, so that's my first step. So I'm going to list my multiples: 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24. List my multiples for 8, 8, 16, 24. So what's the lowest number they have in common? It would be 24. So I know that both of my denominators need to have 24 on the bottom. So I have 1, and then I need a 24 here. Then I have 3, and I need a 24 here. So we're just bringing down our whole numbers for now. So 3 times 8 gives me 24, so I'll also multiply the top by 8. 2 times 8 is 16. 8 times 3 gives me 24, so I'll also multiply the top by 3, which gives me 12. All right, so now that we have common denominators, my first step is to add the whole numbers. 1 plus 3 equals 4. And then I can add my fractions. 16 plus 12 is 28. Keep my denominator. All right, so our fraction over here is an improper fraction. So we need to convert it into a mixed number, and then we'll combine it back with this 4. So how many times will 24 go into 28? 24 will go into 28 once. And how many left over? 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. 4 left over. Keep my original denominator. So now I can just combine it back with the 4. That's going to give me 5 and 4 24s. So one more step. We have to look and see if our fraction can be simplified. Can 4 and 24 both be divided by the same thing? Yes, they can both be divided by 4. 4 divided by 4 is 1. 24 divided by 4 is 6. So my final answer, don't forget your whole number, is 5 and 1/6. That doesn't have anything to do with this problem. That's just a problem I made up. So 5 and 1/6 would be your answer. Okay, next thing, I'm just going to pull up this blank screen. Next thing I want to go over is subtracting mixed numbers when you have to borrow. So if we have 3 and 1/8 minus 2 and 4/6. Okay, so my first step is I need to find a common denominator, so I'm going to list my multiples. 8, 16, 24, 30, thinking sixes, 32, 40, 48, and 56. So I'm going to list my multiples for 6, 6, 12, 18, 24. So my lowest number that they have in common is 24. So I know that both denominators are going to have 24 on the bottom. Backspace, backspace, backspace. Oops. So I'm going to bring down my whole numbers. 3, and I know that's going to be a 24, minus 2, I know that's going to be a 24. So 8 times what gives me 24? 8 times 3, do the same to the top. 1 times 3 is 3. 6 times what gives me 24? 6 times 4, do the same to the top. 6 times 4 is 24, 4 times 4 is 16. So before I subtract my mixed numbers, I need to make sure that my fractions can be subtracted from each other, which they can't, because I cannot do 3 minus 16 because 3 is smaller than 16. So before you subtract your whole numbers, you need to make sure that you can subtract your fractions, and you can't. So that's when you need to come over here and stack them up. Because this will help you with the process. So like I said, you cannot subtract 3 from 16. So what you need to do is borrow from your 3. It will become a 2. So this 1 that you took off from this 3, the 1 that you borrowed is going to get added back on to the fraction. So the whole number 1 is the same as 24 over 24. And I'm putting it as 24ths because that way I can keep my denominators and just add them. So I just add these two together. 3 plus 24 is oops. Let me use a different color here. Is 27 over 24. So now I have, let me erase this. Oh no. What just happened? Are you kidding me? Okay, hold on. So I had, oh no, I forgot it. 28 over 24, I think it was, minus, just do minus, oh, 16 over 24. So we borrowed from that 3, that became a 2, and we added that 1 back onto the fraction to make it 28 over 24. So now we can subtract. So now I can subtract my whole numbers, which gives me 1. 28 minus 16 gives me 12. Keep my denominator. So now I have 1 and 12 24ths. Now I have to ask myself, what's the largest number they can both be divided by? And it's actually 12. They can both be divided by 12. So that gives me 12 divided by 12 is 1. 24 divided by 12 is 2. So 1.5. So that's a lot of steps for subtracting mixed numbers, but you just have to borrow from your whole number and add that 1 whole back onto your fraction. And then you can subtract. Sorry, we lost it in there. All right, that is all for today for adding, subtracting fractions, and adding and subtracting mixed numbers.